Hi everyone, my name is Baishan Chen, and today I'd like to discuss Carl Newman and his artworks. So Carl Newman's traditional name is Heyosuke Gini. He's a multidisciplinary indigenous artist, master cover, filmmaker, author, and public speaker. So his father is Kokak Awik from the Kokakam, Gimsum, and the Wawalabi clan of North Vancouver Island, and Coast Salish from Trim of Stolonish along the Upper Fraser Valley. Through his mother, his ancestors are settlers of English, Irish, and Scottish heritage. His installation art, The Whitney's Blanket, is inspired by a woven blanket. It contains 887 items reclaimed from residential schools, churches, government buildings, and traditional and cultural structures from across Canada. It stands as a national monument to honor the children and survivors, acknowledging atrocities of Indian residential school era and symbolizing ongoing reconciliation. At first, I was drawn to the title of this project. It is an anthropomorphic name, implying that the components are witnesses and carriers of history. This angle interrupted my classification and the labeling interpretation of it, and I became curious about the form of the witnesses in the blanket. Through careful observation of the witness blanket and exploration of stories, I noticed two cut braids donated by Alan and Marianne. Unlike other materials, braids grow from the human body, nourished by time and life. This sparked my curiosity about the story behind them. For indigenous children, having their hair shaved off was a form of discipline, a colonial step abuse. What was taken away wasn't just the hair growing from their bodies, but also the spiritual beliefs, identity, community life, and connection to the land rooted in their tribal culture. Alan and Marianne donated the hair they'd grown for over a year to Newman's project and held an 8-day ceremony for them by the campfire in the Gonsil Rivers, by the sea and mountains, to commemorate departed loved ones. This stands in stark contrast to the long braids nurtured by two healthy lives. It makes me reflect on how our current lives should be built upon truth, grief, and hope. Through my observation not only in braids, I realized that the project also included weaving in textiles. Some wove cedar ropes, needles made by girls from Kakwar's residential school, and so forth. This reminds me of my previous works inspired by indigenous basket weaving, pine needlework, and a community anti-hegemony weaving project inspired by graffiti. In the first weaving project, the continuity of pine needle weaving helps me connect the breaks between stories, provides me with a connection to Canadian Indigenous tradition. The second work empowers natural materials to display their unique materiality and arrangement as a metaphor for democratic empowerment, for anti-hegemonic design that deconstructs the tensions between the creative power of the community and the development of a sustainable community. In the project, these materials overlap and align with each other. The fabric woven from natural materials poses some gaps. This is not an accident, dislocation, or destruction, but rather a reverberation of materials' qualities in the formation of textile fabric, an embodiment of the textile's unique understanding. Reviewing these experiences again, I believe that the essence of the creation at the time was to connect individuals and community culture through artistic action. This corresponds with Cardinal Schubert's idea about indigenous art culture in Flying with Louis, namely that presentation is reality and art is community involvement. At the same time, Newman's another public installation, Hearts and Hands Auckland's Elementary, integrates indigenous knowledge, authenticity, and community engagement into the art education system, represents a significant step toward reconciliation, offering hope for future generations. In addition to the arrangement and display of the viewing sections, I am particularly grateful for Newman's design in online interactions with artwork. It allows everyday objects, architecture elements, cultural artifacts, and more to have a narrative presence with this project. This invites viewers to foster further interaction. Each time I click on an image, learning about the ethnic stories, explanations, and the geographical markers of their tribes. It updates my understanding. This reminds me of the Chris Tong's article in WC on the upload, Surfing for the Northwest Coast Art, where she discusses the internet as a place for self-liberation, self-expression, and self-desubjugation, because they are told and created by real indigenous people. And these visually rich multisensory experiences are more impactful and authentic than textual theories. What makes me uncomfortable is that when I think about its scale, which is 40 feet long and 10.5 feet wide, weighing about 3,500 pounds, the emotional impact of the tragic stories and the enormous size may give me a strong sense of oppression and visual shock. I hope each story and history can be illuminated either through lighting or the angle of the installation. When these various correlates come together, and through these observations, listening, reflection, and responses are all connected, I begin to understand and recognize Newman's catalytic model of transformative action, for personal to collective to structural transformation. Each piece of history that took its place on the blanket is a silent witness to some part of this story. Individually, they are fragments of a disappearing narrative. Together, they are strong. Together, they recount for future generations the true story of loss, strength, reconciliation, and pride. This resilient personal and collective aesthetic came together and had a profound impact on me. When it comes to decolonization and reconciliation, what I can do, what I have done in the past, and what I will do in the future is to respect history from the heart, remember it, take responsibility for it, and be with it in hope. And here are my references.